Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This video is about painting a realistic Dalmatian in watercolors. I have already sketched it using a grid method, and the sketch is available as a digital download on my Patreon. So first things first, let's discuss what makes a good reference photo for painting a dog with white fur. It should have a good lighting all over, avoid shadows and harsh light, as in both the situations it becomes difficult to understand fur or folds of the skin, and overall painting might just look flat. I usually paint the eyes first because for me they bring life to the sketch. Also, sometimes I do not feel confident unless eyes are painted as exactly as they are with respect to the reference photo. For painting the eyes of the Dalmatian, I am using cerulean blue and Payne's grey from Winsor and Newton. I make sure that paper is just wet and the brush is not holding a lot of water to avoid any puddle forming, and give me time to blend both the colors on the paper by using neck of the brush. I am working with 0 number brush because area on the paper is very small and I do not want the brush to cover entire eye with one swab. Now, after painting both the eyes, I just take some Payne's grey and mix some water to make it dilute to paint the shadows. Painting with smaller numbered brush also gives me time and control for blending, spreading both the colors and adding little details. I make sure that I leave the brightest spot of the reflected light on the eye as it is. I have also earlier prepared a mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna for lighter grey and shadow areas. I am using wet on wet technique over here because the color has to spread on the paper, creating some fuzzy edges. I take a generous amount of paint on my brush but no water on it to avoid a puddle, and then the damp paper does its job, creating a soft fur look on the paper. I have started with the farthest end of the sketch and then slowly move away. This saves time as I do not have to wait for the paper to dry, and also avoids smudging in case the paper has not dried completely. And later, if required, I can revisit it again for further enhancing. I start with the face, damping the paper with water, and then I will work around the nose and the eye. It's always a good idea to paint the lighter color first so that any mistakes like overpainting and blending can be done with the darker color later. The portion around the eye have been covered in detail on my Patreon, where I have also explained how and when I am changing the brushes. For the nose, I apply a dilute mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna first. It is preparing a base for the soft light on the nose. And then I add layers of Payne's grey to define the nose and the nostrils. As I mentioned before, I had prepared the mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna, mixing them in equal quantities to get bluish grey. And I modified the mixture timely to create those soft, pale fur details. Change in the brushes is according to the first strokes seen in the reference image. What is seen on the screen, those fuzzy edges, are because there is adequate amount of water on paper and my brush is only loaded with color. If the brush also had a good amount of water, then the paint would have spreaded a lot, and that is not what I wanted. So wet on wet technique can be tricky and needs practice to understand the balance between the water on the paper and on the brush, and this only comes with trying and one's own judgment. How much ever other artists might tell you about the technique, the judgment completely depends upon your experience by doing the same thing again and again. And as you know, watercolors is all about layers. To get the required opacity, I add up layers of Payne's grey for the black spots of the Dalmatian. For the neck, I am using a very dilute mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna, and with my round brush, I am just hinting that there are folds of the skin. Because we are painting a dog with white fur, we should always try to take an advantage of the white paper and focus on the negative painting. And now, for those iconic spots. As you can see, I have put layer of water, and then with just the paint and round brush, I follow along the reference photo to paint the spots on the Dalmatian. It is not always necessary to wet the paper with the water. Some are dry brush strokes, but with generous amount of paint. So this was my entire process of painting a realistic Dalmatian, and if you want to see this tutorial in more depth, then I have almost half-hour detailed tutorial on my Patreon. So see you all in the next video. Till then, happy painting.